this is kind of where it all began for this channel, this journey. This 2-year-old journey. It's been about 2 years that the New 80s Revolution has existed. And if you recall, the original revolution was just an 80s revolution, the 80s revolution. And then we tweaked a little bit on the channel, and I became the new 80s revolution. And that's where we sit today. But right here, right in this area, is where this whole adventure began. I remember standing here and talking in a monotone voice before the New 80s Revolution character was established. Talking about the cartoon DVDs that I'd gotten in the mail, the pickups. And then we started talking about these guys. The LJN wrestling superstars. We spent 8 or 9 videos just talking about these guys. Then we toured the room. We did a room tour. We did multiple room tours where I showed off the collection that I've been building for almost 2 decades now. Definitely 2 decades. Yeah, since maybe 1999 I've been collecting. So 20 years worth. I've lived in this house for about 15 years, so this basement has existed for about 13 of those years. I refinished this basement 13 years ago and developed this cave. This nerd cave, if you will. And I came on here and I hung out with all you guys and we created something. We created the New 80s Revolution together. And I had a blast. I had some of the best times I've ever had, making the most friends I've ever had. I'll say that for sure. All of you guys out there who have left comments, I will consider friends of the channel, and some of you friends of mine. And then we we rebooted the channel a bit. We brought in a co-host, and he brought some additional talents to the channel. It morphed and developed into more of a show, and a show that I was actually very proud of, and a show that I figured or thought could be like a real show. And that was a lot of fun, regardless of all the negative stuff that happened between me and the Warlock. And then it ended, and I came back as a solo act one more time, embraced by all of you. In fact, I think that was one of the greatest moments of that channel, when I came on here and made the announcement that the Jason Nupp, Chris Seaver partnership was over, and then I would be flying solo. The response that I got was overwhelming. It was all positive. It made me feel great. And we jumped right back into what you are used to enjoying and loving and participating in on a regular to semi-regular basis. Well, as you guys know, if you have paid attention to YouTube, there are some changes that are coming, happening in the new year, that will affect lots and lots of content makers. I don't understand it enough to explain it to you. I've read it, I've read about it, I've tried to figure out what it is. I can't figure out what it is. I think the gist of it is that it has to do with protecting children to some degree on YouTube and Google, I believe. And so the long and short of it, if you will, is YouTube is going to ask you if the content that you are creating is marketed towards children. And most of us are going to click no. Because if we click yes, then we're making videos aimed at children. And if we're making videos aimed at children, they're going to demonetize them. But for me, more importantly, they're going to disable comments, and they're going to make the video unsearchable. So you really won't exist on YouTube. The monetization, look, I've always been honest with you guys. Back at the prime of video making, I was making about $25 every month on YouTube. So every 4 to 5 to 6 months, I would make $100, depending on whether, some months I would make $18, some really active months I would make $23 to $25 a month. But the way that YouTube is, they don't pay out until you reach a $100 threshold. So, there's this thing called AdSense, and all of your revenue goes into an AdSense account, and then once it reaches 100, YouTube will send you a check. So I would get $100 check or 100 plus, 100 and some change, every 4 to 6 months. So that's, how wealthy I became off of YouTube. So anyway, if you make children's videos, all that is going to go away. And when you put out a video, it'll ask you, like I said, is this intended for children? And you would say no. Well, if YouTube goes in and determines that your video is marketed towards children, it's going to pull the video, and apparently the FTC can fine content makers some astronomical, silly amount that, would get tied up in litigation forever and go away. But there's still that threat. So, you would say, well, obviously you're not making videos towards children. Well, of course I'm not making videos aimed at children, but I am talking about toys. And I am sometimes talking about video games. And I'm showing toys. I'm showing toy pickups. I'm talking about toy lines. Wrestling figures. Granted, they're from 35 years ago, but YouTube is not taking the time to differentiate between today's toys and 35 years ago's toys. So all they're seeing is toys. This guy's talking about toys. This is marketed towards kids. Strike the channel, potential fine. So a lot of people are either tweaking what they do content-wise, or they're disappearing. And so when I saw that, I had decided that I either had to stop doing this or, reboot the channel. I started a business. I am fully self-employed at this point. That took a lot to get going, so I disappeared from this channel for a few months. And as I disappeared and focused on establishing my career, my own private practice, and getting that off the ground, and dealing with some of the anxiety that comes along with not even starting business. I had it part-time. I just went full-time. So full-time self-employed. And it's something that we all desire and wish for. But trust me, when it happens, you go through a little bit of anxiety. Because, ever since I was, employed for the first time in my life, at 18 or whatever, another company would give me a paycheck. And it didn't matter if I called in sick. It didn't matter if I was on vacation. I would get a paycheck. And for the first time in my career, in my life, I wasn't getting a paycheck. I was responsible to generate the revenue, the income that me and my family relies on so heavily to live. And so I took a break from the channel while that got going. And in that break, I thought, well, things are changing. This was a fun 2-year plus run. I met great people, generous people who'd sent me multiple gifts that I will never forget. I will always cherish the gifts that people sent me in the mail, just because they liked me, or they liked the content, or they liked the channel. So a couple weeks ago, I decided that I would really figure out what I was going to do with the New 80s Revolution with the channel, and then come on here and let you know what I was going to do. And I think I said that I would do this on New Year's Eve, which is tomorrow, but I just couldn't wait anymore. I figured it was time to tie this up with you, to wrap this adventure up. If you listened to I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with a friend of the channel. His name is Jeff Robinson, and you've certainly seen him in the comments throughout over the last couple of years. And he reached out, and him and his partner Angelo have a it's called Wrestling with the Future podcast. And he reached out to me, and they wanted to do an episode on toys and wrestling figures, and he reached out, and of course I'm going to do it, and we set it up, and if you go to the New 80s Revolution Facebook page, you'll see the link to the Wrestling with the Future podcast that I did with Jeff Robinson and Angelo. And on that podcast, I announced the future of this channel. So go listen to that. If you haven't listened to it, I'll tell you what we're going to do. So after 2 years, 2+ years of friends, of gifts, of my face on a t-shirt, it is with a heavy heart that I come on here and say that the New 80s Revolution isn't going anywhere. The New 80s Revolution cannot possibly walk away from the greatest fans in the history of YouTube. How on earth could I ever shut down the greatest YouTube channel that has ever existed? Of course I'm not going anywhere. Of course the New 80s Revolution is staying put right here in the cave. And guess what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about the same stuff that we've been talking about for 2 years. We're going to talk about toys. And we're just going to have to deal with the consequences, or we're going to have to tweak it in a way that little children are not attracted to toys from 1984. Of course I'm not going anywhere. I am here to announce that the channel is alive and well and will not be going anywhere. So you can all rest. You can rest easy. You can lay your little heads down on your pillow and get a good night's sleep tonight, because the New 80s Revolution isn't going anywhere. So thank you all for the feedback, for the questions. What's going on? Where are you going? Are you leaving? You can't leave. Don't go. Of course I'm not going anywhere. And you know why I'm not going anywhere? You guys are the reason I'm not going anywhere. You and all of your comments and all of your feedback and all of your friendship will keep this channel alive. So with that being said, let's talk about where this channel is going. We're probably going to have to scale back toy stuff, but I'm only going to scale it back a tiny little bit. This is what I'm going to do going forward. This channel is going to have 4 or 5 unique episodes, unique sub-shows, if you will. The first sub-show is going to be Wrestling with the Past, the concept that I came up with over a year ago, where you and I are going to relive the WWF starting in 1983. And I am there. The footage is ready. We're starting it in the next week. I am going to watch a WWF television show or house show beginning in January 1983. If it's January 1st, 1983, that's what I'm going to watch. I have all of that footage. Go back and watch previous episodes where I talk about how much wrestling footage I have. So I'm going to go back and watch Championship Wrestling, the syndicated weekly show from January 1st, 1983, and come on here and review it with you. Talk about the matches, talk about the stars, talk about the jobbers, the preliminary matches, talk about the commentator, everything. I'm going to break down the show from beginning to end and show you as much not footage. I can't show footage, but I'm going to show you some stills. I'm going to take some still shots of the matches that we're talking about, and we're just going to talk about it. 83 was a huge boom year for the WWF. It was a major transition year to the boom. So 83 is the stepping stone to 84, right? When it took off. So 83, we start seeing the transformation between the territorial system to what became the global sensation. And so we're going to talk about who's coming into the WWF in 83, who's going, who's turning good, who's turning bad. Oh, and it's going to be so fun. So that's one of the episodes that we're going to do, Wrestling with the Past, the WWF 1983 year in review. And that will continue all the way up until 1994. So we got 11 glorious years of WWF footage to go through together. Second up, because you've asked for it, we're going to continue on with the AEW reviews. I have been watching AEW consistently since it's been on, and I'm a big fan. There's some things I don't like. There's some things I do like. But you guys have said, hey, we dig your style of reviewing these shows. Keep them going. And so we're going to keep them going. We're going to sit down every Wednesday or Thursday night and talk about the AEW Dynamite show. That's 2. The G.I. Joe collection has begun. Ladies and gentlemen, it is right over there. You cannot see it, but the G.I. Joe obsession has begun, and it is already taking over my brain. I currently have probably 20 figures complete on stands. I've ordered the stands. All the waists are tight. I've replaced the O-rings. We've got a handful of vehicles all complete. We've got file cards to go through. It's going to be awesome. So you guys are going to hang out with me on a separate show, yet to be titled, of course, and you're going to watch as I build my G.I. Joe collection to what I'm going to go for, as much of a complete collection as I can. Am I going to go after the rare $1,000 variants? No, of course not. But will I get the $1,000 USS aircraft carrier? Yeah, the USS Flag, the giant aircraft carrier that's like 300 feet long. Am I going to get it? Am I going to get it complete? Are you going to watch it? Are you going to watch it happen? Absolutely, that is going to happen. So you're going to watch a brand new G.I. Joe collector begin his collection from scratch and build up to the mecca of a near complete G.I. Joe collection. That is happening right here. You know I'm going to do it. You know I'm just that crazy, and it's going to happen, and you're going to watch it. And we're also going to go back and relive the stuff that started this channel, that helped this channel thrive. The LJNs, the wrestling figures. Okay. What I wanted to do was maybe do a weekly show back on the LJNs again. You know I can talk about these figures for years. So maybe we're going to do a weekly LJN show where we just review one figure. Maybe we do one figure. Maybe we base a whole show on the Tito Santana LJN figure. Who is Tito Santana? What's the deal with his LJN figure? But more importantly, what role did Tito Santana have in my childhood, in my LJN Federation? I'll tell you some stories. We'll talk about the figures. We'll talk about the variants. And we could do that for all 3 lines, well, multiple lines. I've got maybe 5 or 6 lines of wrestling figures. We could do that for the Hasbro figures. You know, maybe they're short episodes. Maybe they're 10, 12-minute episodes where we talk about this figure in particular. We could do it with the Remcos, of course. The AWA figures right behind me. So we're going to do some kind of a wrestling figure episode where it's one figure at a time. Stories, my history with them, history of play, all that kind of stuff with me and the LJN. So that's 4 shows. That's 4 weekly ideas. So I want to put one of these shows out a week. So my goal is to have you guys watching something from me once a week. The AEW reviews should come out Wednesday or Thursdays. In fact, they'll probably be live. The AEW review will probably live. I don't know if I'm going to have comments enabled because I'll just talk to you guys all night. So maybe I'll do, because it's a lot easier to get it up live as it happens, get it posted to YouTube versus putting it on an SD card, loading it into the editing, putting it. So we'll probably do those AEW shows live, most likely without comments. So that's 4 shows. Still, every couple of months, I want to do a full-length, hour and a half 80s retrospective like we've done in the past. We did 80s food. We did 80s, 80s cartoons. I want to do kind of like the old style where I had that co-host. I want to do something like that. I really enjoyed that style of show. And, there's a lot of topics that I could cover. There's a lot of topics that I could recover. I want to do another 80s food show with you. And those are going to be a little bit more involved, a little bit longer, a little bit of fancy, commercials. I like the idea of putting commercials into these. So those will come monthly to bi-monthly just because they take longer to put out and I want to stay fresh with the content. There's a Nintendo game collection that you guys haven't seen yet. There's a lot of stuff. So 4 main shows going forward on this channel. Wrestling with the Past, the WWF Year in Review beginning 1983, January 1983. The AEW Dynamite Reviews, which will go off either Wednesdays or Thursday nights live. The LJN Spotlight episode where we highlight these figures all over again. It's where this channel started, and it's where we're going to continue on into the future, talking about those glorious 8-ounce rubber figures that was such a huge part of my life. But actually, the part that I'm most excited about is the G.I. Joe. So this channel is going to be G.I. Joe heavy because you're going to watch me again, start from scratch and build my collection to the top. I'm only doing this to build this collection to the top. This is not going to be, I'm not going to half-ass this. This is not going to be, I'm only going to get a few figures. I'm not going to get them complete. I don't need, no, this is going to be the G.I. Joe line from 1982 to 1994. I'm going to stop at 1994. That's when the line ended, and then there were some, nostalgic releases and things like that. We're not going to go all the way there. In fact, I was really only thinking about going to 89, but we'll decide that. The G.I. Joes in the 90s, I have very little to no interest in. G.I. Joe for me existed from 82 to 89. So that's probably what we're going to purchase and collect together. So when we go to toy shows together, I'm not going for many other reasons other than G.I. Joes. I'm running out of room here. We did a major room renovation. Board Game Alley, if you recall, is gone. I have moved all of my board games to a back room that is behind doors. It's not on display. You can't see it. My board games have been sacrificed so that I could have G.I. Joe Land. G.I. Joe Land deserves an entire wall and a lot of floor space. And that is what this room is going to morph into. And you guys are coming along with me because the new 80s revolution isn't going anywhere. Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back We will get this started next week with either the WWF Year in Review or the AEW Dynamite Review, which would be this coming Wednesday, New Year's Day Dynamite. Should be great. We're going to be back here on the channel reviewing it, and that's probably going to be our first show. So, I wanted to come on here and say hello to a bunch of people who kept up with me and made sure that, we weren't going anywhere. Obviously, Bobby Campbell, who has clothed our entire family with gear from his gym. So we all just walk around wearing Bobby Campbell gear, which is awesome. My man, Big Beefcake, who him and I are trying to figure out a sub show to share on both of our channels, I assume, or maybe just his, I don't know, where we review Monday Night Raw together. That can happen going into the new year. I'm looking forward to collaborating with this brilliant man. Look at this man. He knows what that is. Chase. I don't know, Chase. I don't even know if you can watch this anymore. I think you're 16, 17 years old, so I think you're safe. But you started this channel when you were just a wee lad, or you started watching this channel when you were just a wee mite. So, hello to you, of course, and everybody else. I mean, I can't. My man Devin in Canada, Toby Atkinson, Tex Whiskey, who's just awesome, a real friend of this channel. I haven't talked to my guy out in Bakersfield lately. You know who you are. Haven't talked to you in a bit. Hope you are doing well. Who else, man? Everybody, all you guys. My Instagram friends. My friend who sent my son an amazing Ghostbusters, crochet, Stay Puft crochet. That's awesome. You know who you are. And just everybody else who's, and if I'm forgetting you, it's only because I'm like 4 of these in. You guys know the impact that you had on the channel. Anyway, I'm rambling, and that's a complaint of some people. So some people who are not, who are new to the channel, they leave me these comments like, "Get to the point already," or, "Hey, where your comments deleted immediately. Get lost. Get out. Go watch the 4-minute shows where because our attention span has been reduced now to 37 seconds, and if you make a video at 39 seconds, people are losing interest and telling you to speed it up. Part of this channel is the dialogue, is the conversation, is the communication, and I like to build up to my point. So if you don't want to sit around and listen to me talk for 28 minutes, you got to go. For those of you who do, and that's the majority of you, thank you very much. The channel's not going anywhere. I just gave you the rundown. That's what we're doing. I'll see y'all in the new year. The New Age Revolution is not going anywhere. We're here to stay. Good night now.